Working chat. Let's see if I can get that going on. Hello, everyone. Perfect. There you go. I need to share this with people. Share stream. There it is. I'm just here a little bit early for anyone that wants to get into the interview right away, but just a little bit early just to make sure that everything's working nice. Joe will be here probably in like the next 15, maybe 10, 15 minutes. All right. This. Let me. All right, perfect. I think we're live. I think I wasn't here. I'm just testing a little bit early, just due to the fact that we want to make sure that the stream is working. You guys are, listening to everything. We're gonna have Joe in just a second, so come back in like 10 minutes, and hopefully Joe will be here already. Um, Hello, Abhinav. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. Just want to make sure that everything is working well before we get to the interview with Joe. Just some time with the founder. Um, really exciting. And again, if you have any extra questions um, about dumb phones just in general before we get to the light phone interview, I'll be here and I'll probably like stay or I'll do maybe like another one during the week. We'll have another live stream with another founder of a company called Clear Spaces in about a week, or ClearSpace. I've been testing their product for a couple of weeks now, I think, um, at least a week and a half. And, we're just going to figure things out in there. Let me see if this works. Yeah, it's working. Perfect. Perfect. It's not too delayed. I know sometimes it's like a couple minutes. But if you guys have any questions, we'll be talking about it here on stream with Joe, founder of the Light Phone team. And if you have any questions that not related to light phone, that's okay too. We'll be doing that as well. So I'm kind of excited for today's interview. The light phone just got the latest update. Couple of maybe, I don't know if it was a couple days ago. Last week we had the notes tool and a lot of different things happening. So I'm really excited about what is going to come out of this because it really is going to be cool to see how it continues to develop and what are the plans from the team. Sometimes we don't have a lot of insight, but thankfully we have these companies that are pretty responsible. Honestly, this is what one thing where a lot of people are asking me, like, hey, what dumb phone should I switch to? Make sure you get a company that you trust, that's going to put out updates, that's going to do their best. And I feel like that's very important in every matter. So get a company that you trust, get a company that puts out, that has a good track record. I think that really helps a lot of the time. So it's really exciting. Just doing um, some things in order to make sure that the live stream gets to everybody. And again, if you have any questions, make sure to put them there. Joe will be here probably in like the next 10 minutes. If you have to go grab a snack, go grab a snack. We're not starting right away with this just because we wanted to test that everything was going well. But it's good to be back on a live stream. I'm excited. It's been a couple of weeks now, I think, since we had the last live stream, and I'm excited that we get to do this. So yes, I'm really happy that we get to just have some time, ask some questions to Joe. Exciting product as always. The light phone is getting better and better, and I feel like it's just going to continue in that direction, especially after now that they're adding a lot of new tools and a lot of new things. Um, so yeah, I'm super excited about it. I think my favorite thing so far was the Bluetooth improvements. You can connect to your car now. Not every car works. There's been some issues, but they're working on it, and I'm really excited to see that. Hey, it's getting better and better as the time passes by. So that's always good. That's always good to know. Um, let me see. Where did I download this? Right here. Perfect. All right. There it is. Just making sure that everything is in there. Again, take a little break, you guys. Joe will be here in just a second. And again, if you have any questions besides that, yeah, just put them out there. I'm going to be back in just a second. I think I want to showcase a couple of things that I've been working on with the Sonim XP5 Plus. Yes, XP5 Plus. And I just got a new light phone, and we're going to test a couple things today as well. Maybe test them on stream. I'll just be right back. All right, I'm back. So a couple things I wanted to kind of like work on. Joe's already here. He's just on the other area. Is that I wanted to test a couple things. I'll be going out of the country, so I wanted to test if the light works on which networks works outside the country. I'll be in Europe, hopefully in October, so I'll be testing there. But another thing that I wanted to showcase you guys is I'll be doing a review on this one soon, and we'll get to Joe in just a second. He'll be here. He is here, so we'll be going with the interview pretty soon. But I'll be showcasing this. If you guys have any questions about it, please make sure to put them in the Reddit or contact me so that I can make a better review. But that's it for now. We're gonna bring Joe into the stage, and we'll start with this time. As we all have pretty limited times. So there you go, and we're live. Hey Joe, how's it going?
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can hear you fine.
Cool.
Yeah. Always good to have you here.
My pleasure.
So how's it been? Tell us a little bit more about this year. How's it been this year? Let's kind of start with just sharing your year. How's it been so far? I know you guys have been busy, but let's just get started with that.
I'd say it's been a great year. I think we did our survey at the end of 2021, our last big official user survey. And I feel like, now almost a little bit over halfway through the year, we've gotten through, I think, a lot of the biggest things from that survey that we saw most requested from users, things like spell check, and some of these other little features, as well as the notes voice recorder tool. Those are kind of big priorities. So I feel pretty good about the state of the Light OS, and excited for the second half of the year. And I think production's probably been one of our biggest ongoing kind of bottlenecks in terms of being able to produce enough phones in a timely fashion. We've been pretty much sold out of phones the entirety of 2022 and on a pre-order basis. So I think, something we've been working a lot internally is getting larger orders ahead of time so that we can hopefully meet the demand, which we're incredibly grateful that is still ongoing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, as I know, it's difficult for sure, because you're trying to a lot of people, right? Every time you go into social media or you see people that are interested on the light phone, they always think, man, this thing never ships, right? Like, they're like, it's constantly on pre-order. But what a lot of people don't know is just that you guys are selling out like very fast, right? So it's happening. You literally don't have anything in stock. You're waiting for phones to ship it to somebody else, right? That's how it's been working for the past couple of months.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's good to see the demand, but we want to thank you. I mean, I know that as a user, everyday user of the light phone, for me, it's just like you guys have continued to improve the phone, and that's just amazing to see. Um, but we have a couple questions from the people, and
Great.
I don't know if you want to share anything that you guys have found interesting, in the past year, with the people feedback or anything that you guys have been doing. Um, in other uh feedback maybe from the users that you guys have seen.
I mean, it's I think being at almost 3 years of having the phone out there in the world, it's been pretty remarkable to see some of our oldest, longest users, really describe how it's been a kind of life-changing experience. Obviously, they are changing their own lives, and the light phone is just a small catalyst, but it's that continues to be the most humbling thing, these kind of user stories that we get, either through email or we see them on the different Reddits, forums, etc. And we've been trying to share those on social media, because I think those are some of the most interesting things to prospective users, like people that are considering the light phone, maybe have been following us on social media but
Hmm.
never made the jump. And I think, or maybe it's a light phone user that's put their phone in a drawer and haven't touched it in a long time, and that might re-spark them to try it again.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's been really great. I'm not sure if you guys saw, we did a little test with a school in Boston. They got some phones for, I think, about a dozen or two students as a little
Hmm.
test of last year. And the students that were able to kind of fully transition and not go back to the smartphone, which, wasn't all of them. A lot of the students, didn't like the light phone per se. Um, but the ones that saw it through, there was really promising results, both from like the teachers and the parents, kind of describing the child's attitude, their general drive and motivation, and just kind of general happiness. So that's really
Hmm.
exciting, and something, we've always kind of been interested in, the idea of helping parents in that regard. We have been getting a lot of phone sales from parents, not necessarily buying it for kids, but hearing about parents who bought the phone to be a better role model for their kid. Maybe they're,
Hmm.
a more newborn child that's not even thinking about getting a phone, but they find themselves on their smartphone instead of with the child. So that's,
Hmm.
another just kind of really humbling, great use of the light phone.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to link for everybody who has not seen that article. So the Boston Globe, I think, talked about it a couple of weeks ago, probably about a month ago now. So I'll be linking it in the chat. So make sure to check the article there. I found it super interesting because, of course, the reality is that it's not for everybody, right? Like, some people are gonna like it, some people are not gonna like it. Um, and of course, the kids have a little bit more of like a difficulty sometimes with maybe leaving because they banned smartphones completely. And what I found interesting is that they banned it for the teachers too. I mean, that was quite interesting. It's just like it's everybody. It's not just the students. So I'll be linking it there, so people can go and read it. Quite interesting experience. We do have a couple of questions from the community. I'm going to start with the ones that were put on the Reddit thread that I started a couple of maybe about a week ago, um, because these people have been putting it there 6 days ago. I put it out there, but we always get this question, and I know you're probably like, it's a very interesting response, right? Like, it's just life. But a lot of people, now that we have the notes tool, directions tool, a lot of people are thinking like, okay, can we finally get the SDK out? Like, a lot of people are saying like, we could build tools to create integrations for Signal or whatever app, that they like, and make it with the Light OS. But how's that work coming for the SDK? I know that's been one of your goals for like a long term, but of course, things get in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely still something we're very interested in.
Mhm.
In all reality, there hasn't been any developments really, like tangible progress made in terms of our developers actually working on it. We've done a variety of high level studies over the years of what we think it could look like or might look like, and then on the survey we did have some questions, and also gathering emails from different users that would be interested in the SDK. I do fear from that survey that our initial thinking of the SDK perhaps isn't actually what users had in mind. So I do think there's a variety of, we say SDK and everyone's like, oh, I'm so excited, but we haven't clearly defined what and how. And, I would want to make sure that if we were to develop an SDK, it would be as useful as possible, and actually, addressing the things that users are interested in doing. A lot of users seem to want to fully open source the Light OS versus just being able to build these kind of customizable tools. And obviously, at the end of the day, our biggest fear, or rather like something we're always super conscious of, is making sure that we don't, the phone doesn't lose its ethos. And so I think we'd have to be very careful no matter what direction we take with the Light OS and SDK and open sourcing, to ensure that, for the, kind of, for lack of a better term, normal, like regular Light users that maybe aren't interested in SDK, that wouldn't affect their normal experience. And, we'd want it to be as useful as possible. If, we build an SDK, but it's not allowed to do through the tools as deep of integration with the dashboard and other things, it might not actually be as practical.
Right.
So it's something we're still considering, but it does seem like it's a fairly small percentage of our users that are interested in it. Granted, I'm kind of resorting to this one specific survey, but it's definitely still something that we might go forward with, but nothing tangible in place just yet.
Absolutely. No, it's fine. It just always comes up, right? Like, it's one of those that we have. And
I think, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Before I forget this thought, one step I've been wanting to take, and maybe that this fall would be a good time to do that, is to somehow get a forum for these, all the users that are interested in SDK, and maybe some of our Light developers can actually chime in there even more directly and technically, and to start to brainstorm what we think that might be, because I think that's an important first step before actually putting the resources to it.
And with that goes, like, a lot of the other things that you're building, right? Like, but also thinking intentionally. So, people always say, I need this one app, right? Let it be Signal, let it be Spotify, let it be a QR code reader. Everybody has very specific use cases, but you're not trying to cater. I mean, it's not a smartphone, right? It's just something that helps to navigate easily without distractions. And I think that's a good goal. We'll get to the questions in the chat. I just want to get to another one that I thought it was interesting, because I don't think we ever asked you this, but somebody had asked, what does your perfect Light Phone 2 look like? So for you, what does it look like to have a perfect Light Phone? Whatever apps, whatever things, what would you have on your perfect Light Phone 2 if you could have it right now?
I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, I feel like I already have it. I would say the Notes tool, I didn't anticipate myself using it as much as I have, just because of testing. I naturally was trying to force myself to not just use my sketchbook and use the Notes tool. And, I have it bookmarked on my browser, so I can very easily just get straight to the Notes part of my dashboard. And I find that really useful for just brainstorming, or like if I hear a song while I'm out and about and I want to remember it, something like that. It's been really useful. But I would say even before the Notes tool, I didn't feel like I was missing that in any great way. It's just kind of been a nice thing I think the music tool was like the one tool I was most excited about and probably used the most. And, I have the alarm on my phone, the hotspot, but I hardly find myself using the hotspot unless I'm really like traveling on an airplane or something. So I don't know. I would say the light phone is kind of doing its job for me.
All right.
It would be nice to
That's
get
good.
things like Wi-Fi calling and, the Bluetooth a little bit more finessed and some of these other little OS improvements we have planned. But there's not any one tool that I feel like I'm seriously lacking at the moment.
No, that's good. I found it a very interesting question, like what does it look like, and stuff like that. And I know you've mentioned, especially for user cases, Wi-Fi calling. I found myself in actually now wanting it more because in my new place, so that we just moved into, it's this. I can get signal in my kitchen, but nowhere else. So my essentially the phone lives in the kitchen, and maybe I have headphones, Bluetooth headphones, so I can just answer that way. But it's so hard, like I bet that it's so hard for other people that literally get no coverage, right? And they just want to make a phone call. So that's something to think about.
I
Or
can say that is one of our near-term priorities since
That's
the
awesome.
last update. I'm maybe being optimistic, but I feel like that one's going to be fairly simple compared to like building a new tool feature to add. So hopefully, sooner than later, not 3 months from now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good to hear. I mean, you guys are working on it. We got a lot of fixes even on this. On this one, there was the history bug fix, right? Like, there was some fixes for the Bluetooth. It connects with more cars. Oddly enough, it doesn't connect with 0000 cars for some reason, as we've seen.
Yeah.
So I know you guys are investigating, and you'll get down to the bottom of it. So that's good to know. A lot of people just say thank you. In the comments, they already say like, "Hey, thanks for your hard work," and I think we can all agree with that. And we have two more questions that are the same. They're related. People say, "Hey, I want to buy a Light Phone 2, but I'm hesitant because the phone was released 3 years ago, and even though the software is regularly updated, will the hardware be updated in the future? Essentially, is there going to be a Light Phone 3?" So, a couple people asking that. Always, we get it.
A very fair question, especially considering how other tech evolves and planned obsolescence and those kinds of things. We don't currently have concrete plans for Light Phone 3, which means any additional models of Light Phone wouldn't be coming in the near-term future because, as you've seen from our previous Kickstarter campaigns, it's usually about a 12 to 18-month process to bring a new product to life. Fortunately, any future models we'd consider, we'd have a huge software advantage because we've already integrated so closely the Light OS to the Android, and we'd be able to use and reuse a lot of that work. And obviously the Light OS is something we'll be ongoing improving. We definitely don't have plans to stop supporting the Light Phone 2. And we think that, when we engineered it, we were thinking long-term, and we wanted the device to be as future-proof as we could make it at the time with our given resources. So, I'm still fairly confident that the Light Phone 2 as a device has plenty of life left.
I agree.
And so, our intention is never to abandon that device if we were to make another one. I think if we were to make a different phone, it would be targeting a slightly different user rather than like a straight upgrade of the Light Phone 2. And probably, two of the things we've considered, and these were in our survey, so it's not really, a surprise or anything, but is, a larger phone. There's people that are a little bit older and their eyesight's maybe not as great. It's a very, very small phone, or, you have larger hands. It's an incredibly small phone to text with. Some people want bigger battery, so the larger phone could accommodate some of those things. And we've also considered, though this is not a decision by any means, changing the screen, and if people would be interested in that, because I do think for a lot of us Light Phone users, I personally love the e-ink, and I think a lot of people do as well, but I know for sure it's been a deal breaker in the past for some users. who just, maybe didn't enjoy the refresh, and I'm sure they might have gotten used to it, but that's a shame that they were turned off from going light just because of the screen, where you can imagine the same exact interface on a different type of screen. It's not going to inherently defeat the purpose, but that's not a hard thing, and I do think we're really quite proud of the e-ink, and I can see us continuing in that direction.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an adjustment. Definitely an adjustment. It's just a matter of kind of getting used to it. I do understand people that may have some, um, kind of like medical conditions that, when it flashes or, it has sensitivity. But I don't know. I mean, for me personally, that was one of the selling points. It doesn't have an LCD. It's not like, um it's a little bit slower, and like kind of like you get used to the experience. And I mean, you guys have added a lot of tools like the voice to text, for example, which just makes texting way easier. um I guess eventually we'll get to the question of dashboard texting, right? Like, a lot of people always go to that. But I mean, in my opinion, I feel like the e-ink is a very big point because it's just part of the experience. So, um, I mean, either way, of course, like you're still supporting the iPhone 2, even if there will be a iPhone 3. So I would be like, kind of like, do I want to go back to LCD? I feel like a bigger device, it's priorities, right? Like, essentially at that point, it's priorities. But, you know, uh, whatever you guys decide, I'm pretty sure you guys have a good track record in pushing out software, making the phone better. And since there's no plans for a iPhone 3, this is just speculation at the end of the day for now.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something. Every time we get feedback from users or people who, decided not to be a user because of a missing hardware thing, like, lack of camera or lack of USB-C, we take that feedback. That's not to say that we're going to add a camera to the phone, but it is something we're always kind of monitoring in terms of feedback, larger phone, different screen, etc.
Absolutely. We'll get to now some of the questions on YouTube. This one comes, I think, every time we have this, but I think it's good for you to address it again. And it's like, why would you charge for a minimal or dumb phone a price of a smartphone? Minimal phones, in this user's opinion and Usman's opinion, should be below $100. So why is it $300? Essentially, the question for the iPhone 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a question we get all the time. And I mean, at the end of the day, $300 is our current reality. We don't have full transparency into our pricing, but it costs over $100 to produce one light phone, our cost. So, the idea of the phone costing under $100 is, there's a lot of misconceptions, I think, in terms of the cost of manufacturing something as customized as our phone and at our scale. Some of the most expensive components include the screen. I think the e-ink screen is a lot more expensive than maybe people realize. But that's neither here nor there. I think the other aspect is that, unlike smartphones that are often subsidized by carriers sometimes, or, the software makers behind the smartphones, I've heard Google heavily subsidizes their phones because they know that then you're going to be in the Google ecosystem. They'll get all that rich data from everything you do. So, Light phone is a private phone. We're constantly working on the software, which is an ongoing cost. If someone buys the phone for $300 and they're constantly getting new features, we're not, charging them to add this feature to their phone. And I think that's something we're quite proud of, to be able to offer that. It requires us to keep selling phones to keep the everything rolling. And it's maybe less obvious, but even features like voice to text and the directions, like, they have a cost per use. It's not a huge cost per use, but that's because we're using third parties and we're doing it in a private way. So, when you use your smartphone and you get all these wonderful features for free, a lot of times your data is, what you're actually paying with. And for Light phone, obviously privacy is really important to us, user privacy. So, being able to offer those, and like, that's also included in the price of the phone. It's not like we're charging an additional fee every month to use voice to text or, these other features.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and thanks for that. I mean, uh, just basic economics of scale, as somebody mentioned in the comments, that's just like life. You guys are not Apple, you're not Google, shipping thousands of phones. So, your deals continue. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the responses that I've seen from people is like, with all the time that you get back, the $300 just pays off. Plus, I mean, in the United States, at least, we have the Verizon plan, which is $10. It's an unbeatable price, and hopefully we will never get rid of it. Verizon, please don't get rid of it. Uh, I know a lot of people depend on it, and I know you guys have your plan, which I actually wanted to ask, kind of like a segue for plans and cost. I saw that you mentioned that you're exploring different tier options for the plans as well. That's a thing coming up soon?
So it was a technical limitation. Like we actually, as our MVNO setup, it wasn't possible for us to offer other than the 1 gig or the unlimited.
Mhm.
But that's since changed. And I believe, I don't want to misspeak. I'm not the one doing this on the day to day. I believe there's a 5 gigabyte option we're exploring.
Mm.
And I don't want to misspeak on the price just yet. I'd have to confirm that with the team of where we might be able to, but I think, our 1 gig's $30, our unlimited 70. It's definitely going to be somewhere in between
Right.
there. Probably, hopefully closer to the $30 mark would be my goal of such a plan.
Perfect. That's awesome. Good to hear.
And, it's less obvious, especially to existing users, but one of the things we've been working on since we pushed out the update last week is the activation flow for when you activate a new SIM card. And I think it's going to be much more clear, and that should all be done in, maybe today or tomorrow for us to test and then push live, which is in time for a bunch of black phones that are going to start going out end of last week and today and tomorrow and stuff.
Awesome. Good to hear. Again, we have a couple questions coming up. This is Brian. I'm not sure about the question. Maybe you understand it better, but any plans to add direction waypoints? That's the idea.
I believe
I
that's like multiple stops, if I'm understanding correctly. Um,
maybe that's a good way. What I understood also was like maybe like a shortcut,
like your
uh,
favorite
like a favorite.
location. Well, I would guess I could say that either of them are probably technically possible. In general, we've been trying to keep things as simple as possible. As you start to add more complexity, the UX and on such a small phone, uh, can start to be doing too much, a little bloated. But we don't have tangible plans for either of those exact features. But it's definitely something we'd consider as a potential future feature. Terms of some of our nearer term priorities, the podcast tool, we have a slew of upgrades we plan to get to pretty shortly for that tool.
Awesome.
More so than directions. And then on the direction side, there is something we're testing on a firmware level that might drastically improve the initial GPS connection. It's just, we still need to do a little bit more testing, and it got kind of put on the back burner the last 3 weeks or so as we wrapped up Notes tool. But someone's going to, keep working on that this week.
Yep. Awesome. I know you guys just released biggest, like probably since July. I think July was like a small update to the dashboard, maybe, or something like that. But like the last week's update was massive, right? Are we expecting any major updates, as Ray says, like coming up? Or I know one of the dreams for a lot of people has been Uber, Lyft, kind of like ride share. Is that ever coming, or the limitations? Things that you guys are looking into?
I guess to start off in terms of updates, I foresee us having some smaller updates coming in the following weeks, probably a few of them. There's a second part to the call waiting that we didn't quite have wrapped up. That's we're testing this week, and that's I don't know if you've tested the call waiting feature, but there's a single tone right now that lets
Yes.
the incoming call, and we just want that to better match getting a call and have it tone a couple of times and vibrate as well. And we're also adding that to an alarm. So if you're on a call and you had an alarm go off, it would function the same way in a text tone as well. So, that's like a little feature of the call waiting that we didn't think was worth holding the update for, because the call waiting still is a much added value and was ready. So we'll push that out, and then there's some Bluetooth stuff that we've still been working on, and I can see us releasing a few updates to get some more of those optimizations out in a quicker time frame, especially when it comes to some of the car stuff, because we're not always able to test all of that with the limited number of friends with cars that I have in New York City. I think I've tried all of them. I guess we're going to have to start going to like an enterprise and just see if we can sit in all the cars and test it.
Fair enough. That's one way to do it for sure. That's one way to do it. We got some comments. People. Brian saying this is the perfect phone for kids. So it's a use case for sure that a lot of people have said in the past. This one's big. Next question, and I know you guys are working on it, but if you can get us into a little bit more of the what's behind the scenes, what's been happening, but future plans on making the phone compatible with more cell phone companies. So not only the United States, maybe, but also, of course, Canada. And we know it's a big hit and miss right now. Germany, things like that. What's been going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we've always wanted to be more compatible. We're not trying to limit the phone intentionally to any carriers. We tend to be quite conservative in terms of which carriers we claim to support. Because we haven't done as rigorous testing in other parts of the world. And as we get feedback from users who are like, hey, I know it's not listed on your site, but this carrier worked, then we take a note and we tally those. As we hear from more users in a region with a carrier, we get comfortable, we might add them to our compatible carrier list. For countries like Canada, which is our second largest market to the US, we've been working closely with TELUS, and we're going through the certification process now. In fact, we're actually trying to reuse a lot of our testing we did for AT&T. It seems like a lot of it's overlapping, so we're seeing how much of it we can waive, because those labs are quite expensive, as you can imagine, for such a specialized thing. And TELUS is interested in maybe even offering some sort of plan together or some other deep thing. So that's looking pretty exciting, and it seems like the phone on paper will pass the certification. Obviously, time will tell, but so far we don't see any roadblocks there.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, we know users have been using it on TELUS network. Well, some users have had success with, I think it's Kudo or Freedom Mobile. One of the two, they run behind on TELUS, right? But they may not have all of the crazy certifications, similar to what happens here with Mint Mobile, kind of like being a reseller of T-Mobile or US Mobile, things like that. And like some things still work, some things don't. But exciting to hear that at least Canadians will have the ability to have something hopefully soon. That's exciting, and I assume other countries are kind of like also you've been testing and doing all of that.
We've been trying, but the hardest thing is to get tangible traction within a carrier, to get someone that's senior enough at a carrier to actually invest in the conversations and pushing it forward. A lot of times we get unanswered emails, when we try to reach out to different people at carriers. Sometimes it helps in certain regions like Canada. I think a lot of users at TELUS were reaching out to them, and so someone followed up with us and was quite excited to push that. But that's just our reality as a super small player. I mean, some of these Verizon things, it's like, we're such small play to them. We don't get, their most attention like Samsung does or something like that.
Right. Absolutely. Question about I guess your administration part is, are you all hiring? This person would love to build a Spotify integration, but, just in general, are you hiring new developers? Is that, something that people can look into?
As of today, we're not hiring right now, but historically, we've collected resumes and, interested employees. We kept their information on file, and in the past, we've gotten some of our favorite employees that way. So I'd encourage anyone interested to feel free to send either a resume or a little blurb about sort of where you see yourself at the Light Phone. We have a lot of needs from customer service to more specific operations and accounting stuff to obviously developing code. And so, we'd love to hear from people, but no, unfortunately, right now we are not hiring.
Okay. No problem. Understood. I'm going to lump them together because, there's like add this or add that. But we've talked before about a possibility for calendar and audiobooks. So this trust number one says, I listen to audiobooks all day at work outside. Plans to add audiobook listener just like music, but remembers where it left off.
Yeah, I think when it comes to audiobooks, we're very open to adding such a specific tool because the music tool isn't really designed to be used as an audiobook. And I think it would be relatively simple changes that we could add that would make it, a much more useful tool for that. I guess my fear is that a lot of times when people are saying audiobooks, they're implying like Audible platform or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's where, similar to Uber, Lyft, Spotify, we would, need some sort of probably deep collaboration, which, we may not even have the resources to pull off technically, but, they may not be interested in ever supporting themselves, allowing a
Mm-hmm.
user to log in and get their actual either music from Spotify or audiobooks or, everything else into the light phone. So, that's where I would want to make sure it's clear that that would be a much different conversation, is trying to get like an Audible platform. But to have a tool where you could upload an audiobook and it was more designed for an audiobook, maybe with, speed settings, if we ever add those to
Mm-hmm.
podcast tool, or the ability to skip 15 seconds forward or back. And yeah, obviously bookmark.
Absolutely. That's good to know. Audiobooks. I mean, I know I listen to audiobooks a lot. A temporary workout that I suggest people may think of is what I do is I upload my audiobooks to a private RSS podcast feed, and then I just subscribe. Bless you. And then I just subscribe through the dashboard, the RSS feed, and then listen to it that way. And since it's private, you're not, well, as far as I've been told and I've researched, you're not breaking copyright and all of that good stuff. Of course, if you don't share it with anybody else but yourself that purchased the audiobook. But that's kind of like a workaround that I found. And the other one is kind of like I chop them and put them in. Before the podcast thing that I RSS, I used to just chop them and digestible, kind of like edit them 15 minutes, audiobooks, and then just like I put them in the music tool that way. So it's kind of workarounds from users and things that I have seen for people to think how to do it in the meantime that you guys think about developing maybe a specific tool for audiobooks or something like that.
And then you mentioned calendar. I think
Yes.
calendar, especially, given the survey results, is probably the next tool, big tool we might launch. We've been doing some high level studies of features that we think we'd like to have in there. And we haven't fully finalized that down and had a sort of technical overview of what is possible and how long that might take. But that's something we're planning to do in the next week or two. After the last update, we're kind of just finishing some last minute patches and different things that we were working on, some, tracking down some fatal errors and other sort of more obscure bugs as well. And I think we'll start to decide, how many developers we're going to put onto calendar and keep however many on, the OS, the ongoing bugs and optimizations.
Absolutely. Some feedback from Josh after changing over to iPhone 2. Found myself to be much more patient and kind. So, different things from people. Let me see. Continue. Love the phone. People say, yeah. Oh, this is interesting. It will be nice to see what percent your phone is at when charging, but off. Like the animation, it says charging.
I saw this requested on Twitter maybe a few months ago, and it's definitely in our potential. I'm not technically sure if that will be possible or not, because it would be working with lower level Android and firmware and things like that. But because of the e-ink screen and whatever, I agree. I think that'd be great. I guess luckily the phone charges so fast that oftentimes when I go to look at the phone on the charger, it's already at 100%.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
So I wonder how useful it actually be, because it's always sort of, charging, but it's definitely a nice touch. And I think those are the kind of suggestions that, we can continue to improve, uh, ongoing. And I love those suggestions. Um,
Absolutely.
One little one I'm just remembering that I should probably mention that will probably be in a pretty near term update is on the main phone page, like where you see your recents. And in the
Mhm.
bottom right, there's a composed group message. And I think we're going
Mm.
to change that to a direct link to contacts, like the
Mm.
full contact list. And I think there's some confusion with new users, which is, our fault for not being clear enough in the UX that like that search magnifying glass actually searches your whole contact book. And we thought that would be a quicker way with the ink than, seeing the full list of
Mhm.
contacts. But I think some people, the way their, brains just work, they like to open the list of contacts. And then, on that screen, you'll be able to search or add a new contact or create a group thread. But I think that was relatively simple for us to do because that list of contacts already exists. It's just, sort
Mhm.
of changing some linking and some new icons. But I think that would be a welcome upgrade, especially for new users and sort of getting into the phone.
That's good to know. Podcast wise, if there people are having, Sophie says, I'm having trouble adding podcasts via the dashboard. What do they do? Contact you, send you maybe like, is this like a paid link? I know some paid integrations from like, I think some providers that give you the RSS. It's like a very unique one with a code. Do not read well. So if you can enlighten us on that.
Yeah, if they're able to send us the URL that's not working,
Hmm.
I have a list of them, and at different times I've had a developer go through that list, and sometimes it's a matter of us changing our parameters to accept more kinds of links. I
Hmm.
might be using bad technical terms, kinds of links, but different types of the way the RSS feed is formatted, the URL, and so it might be a pretty simple fix,
Perfect.
hopefully. But yeah, as if we have those, then we can go through and verify them all when we go into that in the coming weeks.
We got a question here. Are you planning to add different keyboard layouts? I know you have some right now, but maybe there's other ones that are not included yet.
Yeah, I would love to make it more, locally adjusted, but we don't have tangible plans at this exact moment for that. But
Mhm.
we do have a variety of keyboards we've heard users ask about, and getting keyboard layouts is a little simpler than something we've thought about is like, are we able to offer full language support throughout the OS? And that's
Hmm.
a much more tedious task, and then one that would have to constantly be testing with every new feature and update as well, cross testing. So definitely starts to get more complicated, but adding new keyboards is definitely something I'd like to do. So that's a great.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's good. I mean, I know that right now, if you press for a long time, you get alternative characters, and you have, I think, Azerty and Kuwerts. I think that's the three, right? That
I
we
believe
have
so.
right now. Yeah. Okay. Curran says, "What's your skincare routine?" Not related, but a little bit of a personal question right there.
I love that. How you doing, Karen?
He was featured, right? I think on the like stories. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we got to meet in real life last year. It was awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool, cool, cool.
Drink a lot of water. That's
Oh, that's good. That's good. Um, orders question right here. When will the next batch of LP2 internationals will be available?
um, I don't want to misspeak because there's different times for different colors, and like there's
Mm.
batches that are coming for people that already pre-ordered that might be sold out. So I know there's a batch coming very soon, but that might not be the one, um, either color or it might be pre-sold. So if you have questions like that, the best is either to email our support because they'll have the latest timelines.
Mhm.
It is a moving target. If we pre-sell out of a batch, we might have told you this date, and now it's a month later because it's in the next batch.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. Um, more thank yous. Creating the light phone. It's been 2 years for this user, so that's awesome. Um, This one, I guess we talked about it a little bit earlier, but QR codes. Could it be possible to send a QR code to display on the light phone? Is that a possibility that you guys have been exploring?
So in our survey, we asked about that as a potential feature. We were calling it like tickets in my head, and the idea would be that you could upload a picture from the dashboard, and you'd have this tool on the phone where it just scroll through the QR code. It should be technically possible, but to date, that got like very low rating so far from our users. It didn't seem like something that the vast majority would benefit from, so it hasn't made it into our queue of like near term projects. But that's something we're always checking the pulse on, and I'd say we'll definitely be considering another survey this fall or by the end of the year, for sure. And it'd be great to see if that's changed sentiment wise with new users, or the state of the world and those things.
Absolutely. Next question we have here is, any chance of being able to completely disable hotspot from the dashboard? Seems like a feature. I would think that this is from someone maybe in a more restricted community that cannot use or should not use the internet. I mean, I know like a lot of, for example, a lot of phones that I have reviewed that cater to Hasidic Jews, or, kind of like more restrictive communities. They're like no hotspot, and it's a bummer for a lot of people that just want to get them for being basic phones, but it's an interesting question for sure.
I mean, we've definitely heard that from a couple of users, and from the ones I've spoken with, it tended to be parents that were afraid their kids would, somehow use that and another device to get on the internet. And it's definitely something we could consider. I think in our mind, we were going to work on that probably with the variety of parental oriented features, like Find My Phone, which could be a feature for a non-parent too, and maybe the ability to see phone history from the dashboard, which we'll have a hard decision on either of those, but we kind of saw those together. I do know that, or at least I believe that many carriers allow you to disable hotspot like from the plan side. Maybe it's changed in recent years, but I remember like I had to like specifically get a plan with hotspot for it to work when I was using just a simpler plan before. So if you need that today, a hard no hotspot, that may be something that's possible on the carrier side to disable the ability for the SIM card to even hotspot. But I could be wrong about that.
Absolutely. No, that's understandable. And I mean, like, I know that's a good idea. Maybe get a plan with no data, can't push it out, right? Like, actually I've been testing for the last couple of days. I've tested for like 2 days, and now I'm back to regular data because I enjoy the voice to text tool. But as we know, the better signal you have, the better battery life you have. But I went and I disabled data from the Android layer and all of that stuff. But this is a question I do have from myself. Is like, and I sent this to you the other day. Is there like a cellular toggle off for data connections that you guys could implement? Is that a possibility?
I would want to technically vet it with the team, but in theory, I would assume that's totally possible. We've definitely been considering more options for dashboard syncing, or rather not syncing the dashboard automatically. But it's been such a small percentage of users that have asked about that it just hasn't really made it itself a priority yet. But those kinds of settings, in theory, I would imagine would be totally possible.
Absolutely.
And I think that would be a great upgrade to give just people more control. I think those are the types of features that feel aligned with the light phone.
Awesome. Yeah, I know for me, it's just, hey, if I know that data uses a little bit more battery. I mean, I already get 2 days of battery, but if I could extend it to 3 or 4 just by toggling off and on, every so often, because I only need data to, sync with podcasts, or, but I don't need it every moment. I know that I will benefit from that now that I've been testing with the data off, and it's just like, oh yeah, it's slower, and if I get good signal. Like I was testing, it was like 2 hours, and just went down by like 3%, 4%, and I was like, this is good. Like, I would love this, for sure. But either way, it still works. The phone, I mean, it's better than charging it every half hour or every 6 hours, depending on your usage, right? Um, Let me see. One more. This is more kind of like on your personal usage of the light phone. Is Joe, do you enjoy taking pictures? The lack of camera has been the tool that I have missed the most. Do you carry a separate camera with you? If so, what size?
Yeah, I mean, for sure love taking photos. I'm the one that basically takes all of the photos for Light Phone
Mm.
website and social media. And if you ever got the original Light Phone that came with the book of photos, those are all film photos. And film photography has kind of been something I've been passionate about well before the Light Phone project was in my life. So even when I had an iPhone, I hardly found myself using that camera for anything but just like reference, like what's the name of that, or things like that. For my artistic photographs, I've always kind of used film cameras, and I have a lot of them at this point, different kinds and sizes. Little point and shoots that can fit in my jacket pocket really easy, to like larger ones when we're doing Light Phone shoots that have the right macro lenses. It's getting quite expensive, unfortunately, as time goes on. But it's also great that it's not a dying art at all. Film labs here in New York are busier than they've ever been. So,
Yeah,
but
awesome.
I just helped Kaiway find this little Ryko digital camera, GR, and it's pretty awesome. I'm definitely intrigued myself.
Ryko GR, you said?
Mm-hmm. They
Wow,
came
it's
out with
pretty
one
small.
that's a closer lens that I like a much tighter focal. So, but there's a lot of little great digital cameras. I just have never personally been motivated to take digital photographs other than for like Light Phone production things. This sensor's off, or this is wrong, or we have digital cameras for that kind of review. But all of our Light Phone photos are film.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Guys, we are getting to the hour, so we'll be here probably hour and 10 minutes max. So probably the next 15 minutes is where we're gonna continue with this time. Joe's got to get back.
I'm good till 2 for sure. So
Okay, so you're good till 2. Perfect. So we got about 20 minutes. So that is. So you guys, if you have any extra questions, make sure to put them in the chat. Just giving you kind of like that 20-minute warning, I guess. We got a couple extra questions. a lot of things to go to chat. Uh, Low power mode. Ever thought of maybe adding an option for that?
I mean, it's definitely something we could consider. I'm not fully sure what it would entail.
Mhm.
Other than that would be even lower power. Other than something like airplane mode, only because in a way the phone we've tried to make it as low power usage while normal use as possible. But if there's like more specific suggestions in that low power mode, I'd be curious. But when I think about the iPhone or iOS low power modes, it like turn the brightness down a bunch and maybe like stop things running in the background as much. But like we don't have a brightness, and there's essentially nothing running in the background like location services or any of that.
Right.
So I guess I'm not fully sure what else we could do, but open to suggestions. It's like in theory something that doesn't seem anti.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. We've talked about this, and maybe you have something, maybe an update to share. I know you've talked with certain users on this topic, but repairability. So, any chance battery for battery replacement? I fix it, things like that. What is the plan for repairability for the light phone?
So it's something we've actually been working on. On Friday, we just got a Jig, I think that's the right word, a custom heating appliance specifically
Okay.
made for taking off the screens with the Light Phone and not damaging the e-ink screen, which is very sensitive to temperature. but you have to melt the adhesive around it. And so we're hoping to expand what we can offer in terms of repairability. I'm not sure if it will ever be easy to user repair their own battery, but that would be awesome. And in theory, like, we could see ourselves stocking up batteries and selling it. But I think what we've been working towards is the ability to take phones on a one-by-one basis and either fix a screen. The back housing is actually quite simple to fix too if we were to change the screen, and those are pretty cheap, as well as a battery. Other repairability, like if it's something on the PCB, those are much more complicated and potentially not even possible by human hands. A lot of that is soldered so precisely by, like, I'm forgetting the name of the machine, that it's kind of like magic how it does it. But some of those repairs, unfortunately, if like the USB port is damaged, like that might be something harder. But we do have a plan now and a partner, they're called EcoCell, for as responsibly as possible recycling. It's actually reusing as many of those pieces. And so they're an institution, and they will take all the components off and resell them to vendors that will use them again in other products. And then that actually generates a little bit of money that is donated to causes that are helping fight deforestation, especially among some animals in Africa that are affected by the mining. So that's a pretty cool organization, and we're definitely planning to officially kind of announce that in a more public way. We've just been, kind of testing what's possible and what can be reused, and it's something that's very much on our mind, because we have been holding some broken phones at the office that either have a good screen but something else broke, and or the screen's broken but the internals are good, and we'd love to start being able to repair those and see those phones get back out in the world. And
Awesome.
to that point, something we've kind of always considered is selling refurbished phones for a cheaper price. To offer a way for people to get in to the light phone who maybe, $300 is a not cheap phone. It's a significant thing. But to date, anytime we have really great condition open box phones, we've been holding them for users that need replacement devices, and we haven't had enough to offer refurbished. But I see on the Reddit there's some talk about that, so it's encouraging to see that there may be interest in that in the long term.
Absolutely. That's good to know. And it's good to see that you guys are thinking about that. Repairing, of course, like, repairing such a small device can have a lot of difficulties. And to do it at home, you may not have all the tools that are necessary. So absolutely difficult.
But we use the iFixit kit. I think that was in the question.
Yes.
When we're doing our repairs. So it's almost there. The hardest part would be the adhesive. And then obviously we'd have to make those parts available, because it's not obvious. The battery, you can't just find that battery on the open market.
Right. Well, one step at a time, right? Like, I know that's one of the goals that you guys have always had, and definitely something that is hopeful in that you guys are working towards. So it's good to hear. It's good to know that you guys are doing your best. This one, I agree 100% what I'm going to show. Thank you for the return key. I know Brian and Jerry and myself and a lot of users escaping from the call, maybe just to see something, or try to like get some information and going back, or just returning back and forth. Amazing. It's one of the best functionalities that I never knew I didn't have. So that's something for sure. This next question,
the return key was something that wasn't in our initial notes plan, and it actually did delay us launching the notes tool a couple weeks. But in using the notes tool, I kept finding myself wanting to use a return key, either like making a list or just breaking up a train of thought from just being an infinite paragraph. And so, we said it was always something we've kind of wanted to introduce in general, just for texting purposes, but we decided to escalate that. And adding the return key wasn't as hard as making sure it didn't break instances of the phone. All the threads were fine accepting returns. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just great to see the spacing, and everything with the notes, and it showcases properly. And this update was just very good. Like, I mean, I was like, oh, there's that. There's the call waiting. There's the going back between the call and the home screen. I mean, it was just like, man, this is just so nice. Like, there's a lot of things that I knew, kind of like these are things I didn't know I needed, but they make the experience just so much easier, so much smoother to do. So yeah. We have another question for weather. So, where, if anywhere, is a weather tool in your priority list?
It was a little bit lower than like calendar and notes when we did our last survey, but it's definitely probably still in the top few tools, future tools we'd consider. It was, above tickets or whatever I was talking about, the
Hmm.
QR code. Um, but it was surprisingly lower than I thought. I guess I don't personally really need a weather tool in my life, but I assume that would be a huge interest. So that was a little surprising, but we're kind of going off of what people really said they wanted. So I would say it's in our future thinking, but not the near term. And what that could mean timeline, I really have no idea at this point. But I imagine once we found an appropriate platform for the weather, that it
Hmm.
would be a fairly simple tool to execute. I just do know that weather data is quite expensive. So how we're able to manage that
Mm,
is going to be a little tricky. Um, but hopefully we can afford it like we do the other, voice to text and directions tools. But that's one sort of concern I have at a high level, is making sure we get accurate data that's affordable.
gotcha. For sure, for sure. Um, Let me see if there's any extra questions. We're getting to that point. Probably next 5 minutes we'll be there.
And some
Uh,
users do have a hack for weather, I believe I was seeing in different channels. So if you're really wanting weather in the short term, and it might have a small cost to it, but if it's worth it to you, I know there's a way to get the weather texted to you every day.
mm,
Um, so I'm not knowing the exact steps off the top, but I'd look for that on the forums.
awesome. We have Josh with a question. How many users do you have, or roughly?
Uh, it's not really a number we're able to say right now, unfortunately, but it's the most humbling number ever. Uh, can't believe we have so many users, but it's definitely in the tens of thousands of users, but that's about as much as I can say right now.
No, absolutely. We understand some numbers because of whatever you have in the background, investors, things like that. Competitors, of course, like all that. We definitely understand, but yeah, I mean, we see it more and more. I know, like I see more people interested in it every time, and I mean, you guys are selling out, right? So there is that to kind of estimate some of the users. Um, this is what you were talking about. You can integrate IFTTT for weather text alerts. So that's kind of like a text integration. I know I've done it with Zapier. That's kind of like another kind of like automated integration. So, yeah. Um, and I think this person may not know, but Chance Davis, he asks if there is public transportation, does it work in real time? And as far as I know, it does, right? Like, you get real time bus schedules or train schedules for your
Yeah,
area.
it works in the sense that it's giving the accurate ETA of, this L train's arriving at this time to there, but it's not real time. Like if you're using the live navigation on GPS, it's not going to tell
Hmm.
you in 3 feet turn left. It's more of a, like, what I call MapQuest, like list of directions, kind of like the offline mode. Um,
Gotcha.
so
Gotcha.
it's
Gotcha.
not real time in that sense, but it is accurate to uh, real time, and it should even, it's on here's navigation for this aspect, reflect like if a train isn't running because of a service delay, that should all be reflected as well.
Oh,
I'm yet
perfect.
to experience an instance where it hasn't worked that
Hmm.
way.
Yeah. Good to know. Good to know. Um, we got 4 minutes, guys. So if you guys have any extra questions, I wanted to say, as always, usually when we have this, I like to do a giveaway. So, guys, we'll have maybe not this phone, because this is my international version that I just got. I'm really excited to go to Germany, and actually I'll be testing carriers like I did in Mexico. So I'll send you a message, Joe, when I'm there. Hopefully the trip doesn't get canceled with all the cancellations and all of that stuff. But I'll be putting the link for the giveaway below. It'll be the light phone and a couple of extra phones that I just, after reviewing a lot, I just need to declutter. But there'll be a light phone there. So if you're really interested in the light phone, put your email, uh, put your address. It's international, so it's available for everybody. It just may take a little bit. It's a little bit to get there, of course. Just because, well, I'll have to get one from you guys probably by September, October, and then I'll ship it to whoever gets it. So a Christmas gift, if you will, for this giveaway. So, guys, if you guys want a light phone, make sure to enter the giveaway. I just put the link in the chat. I always like to do it because, to give back to the community, as you guys have watched and supported not only this company, but, all just the channel and everything. Joe, thanks a lot for being here. Any kind of final remarks that you have for the people? If you have any extra things that you want to share.
I'm trying to think. I mean, thank you, of course, for hosting these. It's great, and we're always open to doing more of them. I think, I'm just excited to keep pushing the OS as it gets more and more refined. It just makes me so happy because I think those little bugs are just so unfortunate in the going light scheme, and it's really quite amazing to see the phone evolved. It's going to be 3 years. I think September 4th was when we started shipping, so we're pretty proud of having survived the pandemic and been able to keep the team on board and everything moving forward. So I don't know, I'm just feeling pretty grateful and stoked on what's to come. And I guess, as always, like, we do take the feedback seriously. So whether it's like the Reddit forums or just emailing us support@thelightphone.com, commenting on social media and stuff, whenever I see things, feedback, ideas, things that you maybe hate about the phone, wish it did this. We've made some great changes directly based off of user feedback. So, we really appreciate that, and we just want to make the phone more usable, but not necessarily something that you want to pick up more.
Yeah,
we're still trying to keep the ethos as minimal as possible.
Gotcha, for sure. Awesome, Joe. Thanks a lot. By the way, the giveaway will open in the next couple of minutes. I still need to do a couple edits. So if you're having trouble, make sure to just reset in just a couple of minutes. I'll be opening it up with all the phones I need to kind of like go away. And of course, a nice light phone for whoever wins. Joe, thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate having you here. It's always humbling to hear all the feedback and all the things. I think you guys are doing an excellent job. One more, I think this one's definitely interesting, and I think this probably is the last question that we'll handle today. Is I think you have talked about this before, but sending voice clips as SMS, is that a possibility now that we have voice recordings, right? So is that in the docket?
So it's something Kai and I are thinking a lot about, especially because of the voice memo tool is one step closer to having that functionality. We'd still have to build the UI to support it, but I guess we were very curious because that wasn't included in any of our surveys, if that was something actual users wanted or not. I know I got one email, maybe it was from Brian. I haven't replied yet, asking this specific question. So that's at least maybe 2 people that are interested. So that'd be great to hear if more interested. It's not something that's queued up in our immediate short-term priorities, but it's definitely something that we could consider if we felt like it would be really useful for a lot of our users. I can't imagine why it wouldn't be possible.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, Joe, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, everyone that watched and asked questions. Always it's great to have a great discussion. We'll be back with another live stream and videos and everything in the future. And I know Joe will be working hard to get more updates. Joe, as always, I like to give you the final remarks. So whatever you want to say, go ahead.
I mean, thank you for either being a light phone user or just generally interested in, this kind of weird phone space that we're finding ourselves navigating. And, we're just happy to be here. So thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Just a bunch of thanks coming in. I'll just showcase it. Thanks for the live stream. And thank you, Joe. We'll sign off now and see you guys in the next one.
See you. Thank you.